calling the office of Congressman John Yarmouth. Please leave your message, and we will get back to you as soon as possible.
Record your message after the tone. When you've finished, you can hang up or press 1 for more options.
Yeah, Congressman John Yarmouth, I'm a Kentucky citizen and voter, and I'm very disappointed that you would pledge your support for one of the candidates before any of the Kentuckians even vote. That is against democracy. It's against the will of the people. Why don't you just wait and say, well, I'll go with what the people of Kentucky say? Why wouldn't you just do something like that? Why would you go out and pledge your support for, a corporate militarist who is more of a Republican than Trump is? Trump is for universal health care. She's not even going to do that. Give us a public option. Keep it with the Obamacare. What about Honduras and all the military advances? You've got, let's see, definitely Honduras, right? The 2009 coup d'etat in Honduras, Libya. So she is for regime change. She's for the empire. She's for extending. She will drone strike. She will be an imperialist. She will be a warmonger. And if humankind doesn't put an end to war, war will put an end to humankind. So I really want you to reconsider you publicly supporting one of these two candidates before Kentucky, the people of Kentucky, even vote. I think it'd be in your best interest. Again, my name's Jonathan Masters. You can give me a call back, 606.
When we began this campaign almost a year ago, we started off at 3% in the polls. We were about 70 points behind Secretary Clinton. In the last couple of weeks, there were 2 polls out there that had us ahead. Of the last 9 caucuses and primaries, we have won 8 of them, many of them by landslide victories. Over the last year, we have received almost 7 million individual campaign contributions, averaging, guess what, $27 apiece. More individual campaign contributions than any article. We're telling the American people the truth. And the truth is that this country is not going to move forward in a significant way for working people unless we overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision and unless we have real campaign reform so that billionaires and super PACs cannot buy elections.
Get money out of politics. Get money out of politics. Let's stop legalized bribery. There used to be a time if you were bribed, you were looked down on and your candidacy went down. Now it's just status quo. It's just a standard operating procedure.
The 1%. Thank you.
What the fuck? They can't clap.
Helped by what they had experienced. We worked hard to bring jobs from Buffalo to Albany and all parts of New York to give more hardworking people a chance to really make the most out of their own talents.
Blah, 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 blah. So this person right here, this shithead right here, she overthrew the government of Honduras. And right now in Honduras, they're assassinating the indigenous activists. There is a hydroelectric dam that an indigenous activist protested against, and they're assassinating them because the country is in chaos. And then they have children, the refugees, the Honduras refugees are going to be coming to America, and we're going to send them back into the shithole that we, created.
To build on
Come
the values
on.
that we share
outright.
here in New York, to take those to Washington, and to knock down those barriers that in any way hold back not only individuals, Americans, but our country.
I've known Secretary Clinton, how long? 25 years. We worked together in the Senate, and I said that in response to the kind of attacks we were getting from the Clinton campaign. Washington Post headline says, Clinton campaign says Sanders is unqualified.
Look at her. What an asshole. What an asshole. I cannot stand her.
Secretary Clinton have the experience and the intelligence to be a president? Of course she does. But I do question
Donald Trump is in favor of universal health care. He wants to keep Obamacare, which didn't even give a public option. Donald Trump is more pro-health care than this piece of crap.
Blunder in the history of this country voted for virtually every disastrous trade agreement, which cost us.
And New York, you're going to fucking vote for this piece of shit? Fuck you, New York.
I question her judgment.
No, if you vote for her, fuck you. We'll wait till Tuesday.
A lot of things in my life. That was a first. And
no, you're unqualified, okay? You're not qualified to be president. You don't have the moral clarity, the moral judgment. You're not fucking qualified.
To be their senator.
What did you get accomplished? You got more wars, you got more fucking corporations of Wall Street? Fuck you.
Enough to ask me to be Secretary of State.
Yeah, Goldman Sachs. I take $250,000 from Goldman Sachs. I got great judgment. I'm so qualified. Well, I'm a Wall Street candidate.
I hope all of you will.
Fucking Hillary. Shit.
Senator Sanders' long interview with the New York Daily News. Talk about judgment and talk about the kinds of problems he had answering questions about even his core issue, breaking up the banks. When asked, he could not explain.
She doesn't want to break up the banks because the banks fucking pay her. Of course she don't want to break up the banks.
A number of if he'd had some paper in front of him, maybe he could.
Yeah, she mentioned Israel.
She just on day one.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't have the judgment on Iraq. She didn't have the judgment on Wall Street. She is absolute dirt. How can anybody believe a fucking word this piece of crap says?
Judgment. And let us talk about the worst foreign policy blunder in the modern history of this country.
Yeah, only 1 million fucking Iraqis were killed. Only 1 million. That's only, what, 1/10 of Nazi Germany, Holocaust? Just 1 million fucking Iraqis, right? What the fuck does she care about the Iraqis? How many more terrorists did we create in Iraq? How many more terrorists did we create in Honduras and Ukraine and Libya? This shit is a fucking mess. Because of fucking Hillary, fucking Shitlery, Billery, Killery. This is Killery right here. Hillary is not qualified.
We have got to understand that in America we should be thinking big.
She's not in favor of the legalization of marijuana. She don't think that we have the right to our own bodies. She's a fascist. She's a fascist corporatist imperialist.
World and guarantee health.
You do not have the moral clarity. If you think this person is better than her, you do not have the moral clarity to do anything. She is totally wrong. She is not the heart of the Democratic Party. She is gone. She's oh yeah, Goldwater girl. Oh, look at the Goldwater girl. Yeah, Goldwater is against the Civil Rights Act. Hey, what about that CP people? Yeah, CP time, right? Colored people. Let's go back to the 1950s. Talk about colored people. That's what you're African Americans, not colored people. Fucking racist.
Contributors. And President Obama was not at all influenced when he made the decision to pass and sign Dodd-Frank, the top insinuations that he is putting forward.
She said there's no evidence.
Secretary, we're going to continue on this, but I want Dana Bash to continue with the questioning.
Secretary Clinton, the government announced yesterday that 5 of the biggest banks on Wall Street have failed to develop plans to dismantle themselves in the event of another financial crisis. This is the second time in 2 years those banks neglected to come up with credible plans. So as president, would you call on regulators to start the process of breaking up these banks, something that the law not only allows but actually...
No, she won't break up the fucking banks because she's owned by the bank.
You know, this is what I've been saying for the past year. No bank is too big to fail. No executive too powerful to jail. I have been talking about what we should be doing under Dodd-Frank.
Who are you going to arrest, Hillary? Who are you going to arrest? Why don't you release their transcripts? Let us see all the fucking shit you've been talking to Wall Street. Let's hear what you...
I love being in Brooklyn. This is great.
Yeah. She also loves Barry Goldwater. It's a Barry Goldwater girl right here. Barry Goldwater voted against the Civil Rights Act. She makes jokes about colored people's time. right?
law
If
that
black
we
people are always
passed,
late. That's what she
under
said.
President
Black
Obama.
people are always late. No, cautious
I'm proud
politician.
that,
She makes jokes like this.
Barney Frank,
At
one
this
of the
time.
authors, has endorsed me because what I have said continuously
Yeah, because
is,
he's a fucking
yes,
party
sometimes
insider.
the government may have to order certain actions. Sometimes the government
People who
can
support
permit
her only show
the
how
institution
desperate the
themselves
Democrats
to take
are because
those
they're
actions.
scared
That
of
has to
losing the
be
White House.
the
Don't be
judgment
scared.
of
We've got to
regulators.
counter
But
Trump,
there's
and the
another
only person
element
that
to
will
this.
counter Trump.
I believe strongly that executives of
Bernie
any of
Sanders.
these organizations should be financially penalized. If there is
Penalized?
a settlement,
Who the
they
fuck says
should
penalized?
have to
This piece of
pay
crap
up
right here.
through compensation or bonuses, because we
This country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Recession, the Great Depression of the 30s, when millions of people lost their jobs and their homes and their life savings. The obvious response to that is that you got a bunch of fraudulent operators and that they have got to be broken up. That was my view way back, and I introduced legislation to do that. Now, Secretary Clinton was busy giving speeches to Goldman Sachs for $225,000 a speech. So the proper response...
Teddy Roosevelt broke up the banks and trust
in my
busters.
view is...
Fuck the monopolies, fuck them banks. Where's my bailout? If a small business fails, nobody bails them out. That's how capitalism works. You fuck up your book, you go down.
There is no example. I stood up against the behaviors of the banks when I was a senator. I called them out on their mortgage behavior.
She says, cut it out. Hey, Wall Street, cut it out. Now give me a $250,000 check.
Privileges they had under the tax code. When I went to the Secretary of State
She's
office,
part of the 1%.
President,
She is the
President
establishment.
Obama,
She is the
led
1%.
to pass the Dodd-Frank bill. That is the law. Now, this is our 9th debate. In the prior 8 debates, I have said, we have a law. You don't just say, we're upset about this. I'm upset about it. You don't just say, go break them up. You have a law because we are a nation of laws.
Thank you,
So I support Dodd-Frank, but I have consistently...
She won't break up the banks. She won't break them up because she don't know how to stand up to these motherfuckers.
To be really crushed by this. And was that before or after you received huge sums of money by giving speaking engagements behind them? So they must have been very, very upset by what you did. Look, here is the difference. And here is the clear difference. These banks, in my view, have too much power. They have shown themselves to be fraudulent organizations endangering the well-being of our economy. If elected president, I will break them up. We've got legislation to do that, and we'll discuss it.
She says Kissinger. She loves Henry Kissinger. He's a bigger war criminal than he bombed 4 to 7 million people in Southeast Asia, not just Vietnam, but Cambodia too.
Everybody does it.
She loves Kissinger. She loves Barry Goldwater.
That you think age who did not vote to deregulate swaps and derivatives as Senator Sanders did.
The questions right here.
Which led to a lot of the problems that we
Why won't you release the transcript?
Now, if you're going to look at the problems that actually caused the Great Recession, you got to look at the whole picture. It was a giant insurance company, AIG. It was an investment bank, Lehman Brothers. It was mortgage companies like Countrywide. I'm not saying that Senator Sanders did something untoward.
Why don't you release the transcript? Release the transcript. She's not answering the fucking question.
And that contributed to the collapse of Lehman Brothers, which started the cascade.
Senator Sanders, 1 second, please. Secretary Clinton, the question was about the transcripts of the speeches to Goldman Sachs.
There are certain... If everybody agrees to do it, because there are speeches for money on the other side, I know that. But I will tell you this.
Boo! She won't release the transcript because she's kissing the Wall Street ass.
Release their tax returns, and you can go to my website and see 8 years of tax returns, and I've released 30 years of tax returns. And I think every candidate, including Senator Sanders and Donald Trump, should do the same.
You're not running against Donald Trump yet. You're running against Bernie Sanders. Fucking war criminal, fucking war hawk, chicken shit war hawk.
Right. And it is your Democratic opponent and many Democratic voters who want to see those transcripts. It's not about the Republicans. Let's set the same standards for everybody. When everybody does it, okay, I will.
Why don't you just be honest? Be forthcoming with information.
Everybody else does it, she'll do it, I will do it. I am going to release all of the transcripts of the speeches that I gave on Wall Street behind closed doors. Not for $225,000, not for $2,000, not for 2 cents. There were no speeches. And second of all, of course, we will release our taxes. Jane does our taxes. We've been a little bit busy lately. You'll excuse us. But we will, Senator, we will get them out. Senator,
well, you know, there are a lot of copies.
I'd rather Jane Sanders be the first lady than fucking Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, right? There's a good champion of women's rights. What happened to Monica Lewinsky? That's bullshit what they did to her. She gave a blowjob to him. She did.
Well, the answer is, you know, what we have always
Wolf
done in
Blitzer,
my
so
family,
fucking
Jane does them. And she's been on the campaign trail. We will get them out. We'll get them out very shortly.
Senator, you've slammed companies like General Electric and Verizon for moving jobs outside of the United States. Yesterday, the CEO of Verizon called your views contemptible and said in your home state of Vermont, Verizon has invested more than $16 million and pays millions of dollars a year to local businesses. He says you are, quote, uninformed on this issue and disconnected from reality. Given your obvious contempt for large American corporations, how would you, as President of the United States, be able to effectively promote American businesses around the world?
Well, for a start, I would tell the gentleman who's the CEO at Verizon, what he needs to do is to tell this guy in there who's the head of General
Give him his contempt.
Doesn't like me?
It's a leading question.
Funny. He has outsourced hundreds of thousands of decent-paying jobs throughout the world, cut his workforce here substantially, and in a given year, by the way, turns out that both Verizon and General Electric in a given year pay nothing in federal income tax despite making billions.
How come General Motors and Verizon doesn't pay their taxes?
That no matter the means to
he sits there and says he needs to return, he needs to pull his taxes, but he don't give a shit about Verizon and General Motors taxes.
Go up, which would disproportionately impact the poor and middle class. So how would you bring back these jobs to the United States without affecting the cost of goods to America's middle class and poor? Well, for a start, we're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. All right? When this campaign began,
so Hillary just talks out of turn wherever the fuck she wants to.
Starvation minimum wage of $7.25, raise it to 15. Secretary Clinton said, let's raise it to 12. There's a difference. And by the way,
exactly. Point out the difference.
History has outpaced Secretary.
He always undercuts Bernie every which way. Free college, no. She says we got to make them work. He says free health care. She says no. Give it to the corporate sellout that's known as Obamacare. He says break up the big banks. She says no. He says stop the war. She says no. She's a triangulating piece of shit.
Thank you.
So suddenly announce now that you're for 15. I don't think it's quite accurate.
All right, Secretary.
All right. I have said from the very beginning that I supported...
What's that, all right? All right.
I supported those on the front line.
Is when gun shop owners and others knowingly are selling weapons to people who should not have them. Somebody walks in, they want thousands of rounds of ammunition, or they want a whole lot of guns. Yes, that gun shop owner or that gun manufacturer
should be held liable. So, Senator, do you owe the Sandy Hook families an apology? No, I don't think I owe them an apology. They are
Does Hillary Clinton owe the people of Honduras apology? Does Hillary Clinton owe the people of Iraq an apology? And Ukraine and Libya? ISIS is in Libya right now. It is a hotbed for ISIS. That's Hillary Clinton. What a fucking, what a contradiction, what a hypocrite. She's a hypocrite. She's all about using bombs and guns in the military-industrial complex to kill a bunch of poor people all around the world. But she's telling us that
manufacturers and dealers accountable through a very carefully crafted legal strategy. The NRA came to their supporters in the Congress and said, stop it now, and Senator Sanders joined those who did.
Let me just reiterate so there is no confusion. Decades ago, before it was popular, in a rural state with no gun control, Bernie Sanders said, let's ban assault weapons, not see them distributed.
This is Annie Oakley. Barack Obama called her Annie Oakley. She's acting like she's a gun-toting, thug. Annie Oakley. Now all of a sudden she's totally against guns. I'm a pro-gun. I'm a pro-Second Amendment Democrat.
Across the country.
I like all my Bill of Rights. I like them all.
Tougher prison sentences and eliminated federal funding for. I believe we should take marijuana out of the federal controlled substance act. Thank you.
We have a right to our own bodies. The number one cash crop in Kentucky, marijuana. You know who's in favor of the war on drugs? Nixon's 1971 war on drugs. It was passed against the blacks and against the activists.
We cannot ignore, and we must.
She's not saying shit about marijuana because she is against this legalization. She wants to keep on throwing people in jail just because of what? What a fucking hypocrite, man. Fucking hypocrisy. Alcohol is 1,000 times worse than marijuana.
Blasio brought to New York. We have got to help more kids get off to a good start.
She doesn't say shit about the war on drugs. The war on drugs has failed. Everywhere it's been implemented, it has failed, and the alternatives, everywhere the alternatives have been implemented, it has succeeded.
How we build.
She just talked about Libya.
For President Obama, this was a pretty tough call, like a 51-49 call. Do you overthrow Gaddafi, who, of course, was a horrific dictator? But the New York Times told us it was Secretary Clinton who led the effort for that regime change.
She thinks it's the best decision she's ever made.
Type of mentality,
and it's Obama's worst.
Supported the war in Iraq.
The same mentality, absolutely.
Look,
she's a warmonger. She's an imperialist warmonger. She'll be bombing people just like Trump. I don't know who's more liberal or conservative between Trump and her.
What we have got to do, and what the president was saying, is we didn't think thoroughly about what happens the day after you get rid of these dictators. Regime change often has unintended consequences. In Iraq and in Libya right now, where ISIS has a very
far greater disaster in Syria that we are currently dealing with right now.
Just like in Iraq, there was no Al-Qaeda. ISIS is in Libya right now because of Hillary.
What you were talking about is what I think was what they call the unanimous consent. You know what that is? Where basically, do we support Libya moving to democracy? Well, you know what? I surely have always supported Libya moving to democracy. But please do not confuse that with your active effort for regime change without contemplating what happened the day after. Totally different issue.
Well,
regime change in Honduras, in Ukraine, in Libya, and in Syria. She's a warmonger. She is an imperialist warmonger.
There was also in that a reference to the Security Council, and I know you're not shy when you
in Syria talked about a no-fly zone, which the president certainly does not support, nor do I support, because A, it will cost an enormous sums of money. Second of all, it runs the risk of getting us sucked into perpetual warfare in that region. Thirdly, when we talk about Syria right now,
you don't care about perpetual warfare.
Like Gaddafi, like Saddam Hussein, Assad is another brutal, murdering dictator. But right now, our fight is to destroy ISIS first and to get rid of Assad second.
Well, I think Senator Sanders has just reinforced my point. Yes, when I was Secretary of State, I did urge, along with the Department of Defense and the CIA, that we seek out, vet, and train and arm Syria. Make recommendations, and then the president makes the decision. So
Hillary just admitted that she wanted to give Al-Qaeda a bunch of weapons to fight in Syria. That's what the fuck McCain did. They give Al-Qaeda weapons.
We need to put in safe.
Does that ever work? That blowback? Ronald Reagan give weapons to Bin Laden. Did that work out well for us? Maybe we should quit just, jumping into these conflicts when we don't know exactly what the fuck is going on.
Senator Sanders, in 1997, you said this about NATO. You said, quote, "It is not the time to continue wasting tens of billions of dollars helping to defend Europe, let alone assuming more than our share of any costs associated with expanding NATO." Do you still feel that way?
Well, what I believe, my memory is correct here, we spend about 75%.
This is the guy I want to have the finger on the button, on the red button. He's reserved. He won't just get us in bullshit.
The National Health Service. And they also provide fairly reasonable higher education. You know what? Yeah, I do believe that the countries of Europe should pick up more of the burden for their defense. Yes, I do.
And just following up, Senator Sanders, Donald Trump also argues that NATO is unfair economically to the U.S. because America pays a disproportionate share. So how is what you say about NATO and your proposal different than his?
Well, you got to ask.
Trump was also against Iraq war,
so I can tell you is with a huge deficit, with 47 million people living in poverty.
Trump also said to get rid of NATO. He's just saying that they should pick up more of the bill.
Like Germany and UK and France and European countries whose economy, or at least its standard of living and health care and education, they're doing pretty well. So I would not be embarrassed as President of the United States to say to our European allies, you know what?
Across the Atlantic, countries that are democracies, that have many of the same values and interests, and now we need to modernize it and move it into the 21st century to serve as that head of our defense operations
because NATO helped her overthrow Gaddafi.
When it comes to terrorism and other threats that we face.
Madam Secretary,
yes, of course they should be paying more, but that doesn't mean if they don't, we leave. Because
she wants to be the head of the empire.
Part of my question to you is, to that point, there are 28 countries in the alliance, and the United States
will send young men and women to die. She will send young men and women to die over bullshit overseas adventures. She is a warmonger. She is a warmonger through and through. Do you want more wars? Do you all want to spend trillions of dollars?
And we will continue to look
blowing up people overseas. Meanwhile, we have no health care, no college, no child.
1,500 who were killed.
Yeah, Israel is fucking killing innocent Palestinians.
But countries all over
the only person defending Palestine, the Jew. Only person defending Palestine.
The answer is, I believe it was.
Israel can kiss my fucking ass. Israel's got universal health care. Israel's got universal college. And we're going to keep on, protecting them and covering their asses up? Fuck that shit. You fucking invade another country, you kill other people, you starve other people, you are to be blamed. It's you doing that. I'm not going to fuck, that's not my name. You're not going to do that shit in my name.
Which has seen so much hatred and so much war. We are going to have to treat the Palestinian people with respect and dignity. So what is not to say that right now in Gaza, unemployment.
Hillary is a shill for Israel.
We must continue to do everything we can to try to reach a two-state solution, which would give the Palestinians the right.
Yeah. They've been talking about a two-state solution for a long-ass time. You're Secretary of State. Why don't you do a two-state solution then?
Yasser Arafat had agreed with my husband at Camp David in the late 1990s to the offer that Prime Minister Barack put on the table, we would have had a Palestinian state.
Yeah, Netanyahu, when he killed all those Palestinian kids, he said he was just cutting the grass. That's what the fuck Israel's done, and they're doing it in our name. We protect them all the fucking time. We also use Israel to funnel weapons to fight against Nelson Mandela. Fuck Israel, man.
That's not the issue. And you evaded the answer. You evaded the question. The question is not does Israel have a right to respond, not does Israel have a right to go after terrorists. And it's unfortunate. I believe that it was. You have not answered that.
Well, I will certainly be willing to answer it. I think I did answer it by saying that, of course, there have to be precautions taken, but even the most independent...
She didn't even fucking answer it.
The way that Hamas places its weapons, the way that it often has...
Yeah, Israel's right no matter what, right, Hillary? No matter what, Israel's always fucking right. Give me a fucking break. She's an imperialist. That's why she defends it.
But it would be great. Remember, Israel left Gaza. They took out all the Israelis. They turned the keys over to the Palestinian people.
They're cutting the water. They're cutting the water off of Gaza.
So
when Cynthia McKinney tried to give them food,
the kind of opportunities that the children
Israel wouldn't let that happen.
Deserve, we have a terrorist haven that is getting more and more...
I heard virtually no discussion at all about the needs of the Palestinian people. Almost none in that speech. So here is the issue. Of course, Israel has a right to defend itself. But long term, there will never be peace in that region unless the United States plays a role, an even-handed role, trying to bring people together and recognizing
that's the truth. That's the only way.
Problems that exist among the Palestinian people. That is what I believe the world wants us to do, and that's the kind of leadership that we have got to exercise.
Well, if I want to add, again, describing the problem is a lot easier than trying to solve it. And I have been involved, both as First Lady with my husband's...
Netanyahu is not right all the time. She laughs.
Well,
Secretary,
say it. Say it. Netanyahu is not wrong right all the time.
And written at some length the very candid conversations I've had with him and other Israeli leaders. Nobody is saying that any individual leader is always right. But it is a difficult position. If you are...
Say something good about the Palestinians.
...ever perspective, trying to seek peace, trying to create the conditions for peace, when there is a terrorist group embedded in Gaza
Christ.
That does not...
Israel is a bigger terrorist fucking nation than Palestine. Israel does terrorism on a ritual basis, systematic
which
basis.
Obviously deals with the Middle East crisis, and you barely mentioned the Palestinians. And I think, again, it is a complicated...
union households, working people, and I am very proud of the campaign.
Corporations, military-industrial complex.
Will not only capture the Democratic nomination, but a campaign that will defeat
the big bank.
The Republicans end up nominating. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Senator Sanders. Now I want to say, Senator Sanders.
She wants to jump in again. Look, she can't just speak in her time slot.
I do think it is absolutely critical and incredible that we have so many young people involved in the political process. I applaud all of those who are applauding you, Senator Sanders. We're happy that they are supporting you, that they are
she wants to get my vote. Hillary, you're not going to get my vote. You don't get it. Sorry.
Let me also...
You're a war criminal. War criminal.
War criminal. Right here. The Democratic Party in the nomination in the Democratic Convention. Your campaign manager says that you will absolutely take the fight to the floor if neither you nor Secretary Clinton clinches the nomination with pledged delegates alone. Do you vow to take this fight to Philadelphia no matter what?
I think we're going to win this nomination, to tell you the truth. Look, let me acknowledge what is absolutely true. Secretary Clinton cleaned our clock in the Deep South. No question about it. We got murdered there. That is the most conservative part of this great country. That's the fact. But you know what? We're out of the Deep South now. And we're moving up. We got here, we're going to California, we got a number of large states there. and having won 7 out of the last 8 caucuses and primaries, people and low-income people doing better against Donald Trump and the other Republicans in poll after poll than Secretary Clinton is, yeah, I believe that we're going to win this nomination, and I believe we're going to obliterate Donald Trump or whoever the Republican candidate is.
Now, let me say this.
Secretary Clinton, go ahead.
I think it's important for people out there watching this tonight to know that I also have a considerable lead in pledged delegates. And
she's about up by 200. That's it, 200. And fuck them super delegates. Everybody get on the super delegate hit list and put the pressure on. That is America. We're allowed to call our politicians up and tell them that they're being a bunch of assholes. You don't vote for the state, like in Wisconsin. Wisconsin voted for Bernie. If your super delegates are voting for her, then they're not listening to the will of the people.
Optimistic, but it all comes down to reaching every single voter. I'm not taking anything for granted, or any voter, or any place.
She is scrappy, white trash scrappy.
Here in New York until the polls close on Tuesday. I'm going to work in Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, and Maryland, all the way through California. And when we end up with the number of delegates we need, we will unite the party and have a unified convention
Senator,
that will go on to the general election.
The reason why in virtually every contest we are winning by very strong margins, younger people, and I'm not just talking about very young, the older you get, the younger, 45 or younger, is I think people are sensing that establishment politics and dependence on Wall Street and big...
The reason why
you can't take
Bernie
money
Sanders
from powerful special interests into your PAC and then really expect the American people to believe you're going to stand up to these powerful special interests. So I am very proud.
Bernie Sanders is telling the truth. Even the people that don't like him say at the very least he's telling the truth. Donald Trump speaks from his heart too. Americans are sick of the bullshit politics, the bullshitters. We're sick of bullshitters like her.
They will make their
and this fucking corporate shill.
Right after this.
We're sick of it. And so the era of rose-colored glasses is over. The era of bullshit politics is over. We want to hear the truth. That's what America needs to hear is the truth. And we need to vote based upon the truth that we hear.
I would just like a separate white nation.
I'm W. Kamau Bell. And as a traveling comedian, I see a lot coming out here to talk to you guys.
Hillary's fucking supporters right here.
Pocket.
He was born in Brooklyn.
Made a whole lot of money.
The son of a Polish immigrant.
Very proud American, because this country gave him and my mom the opportunity to send their kids to college. I believe that this country has enormous potential.
He's gonna make America great again.
We have the guts to take on the big money interests who dominate our economic and political life. And I disagree with Secretary Clinton in the belief that you can get money from Wall Street, that you can get money for a super PAC from powerful special interests, and then at the end of the day, do what has to be done for the working families of this country.
The only people he's beholden to is the American people.
That this country, if we stand together and not let the Trumps of the world divide us, change, can break up the large financial institutions, can demand that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes. And we can do that when millions of people stand up, fight back, and create a government that works for all of us, not just for 1%. That is what the political revolution is about. That is what this campaign is about. And with your help, we're going to win here in New York. Thank you. Thank you. Secretary Clinton.
In 2000, and then you reelected me with one of the biggest margins we've had in our state in 2006. During those years, we worked closely together. I tried to have your back, and time again, you had mine. We took on the challenges of 9/11 together.
She's like Ben Carson. She's about to fall asleep.
We got the money to rebuild New York. We came to the aid of our brave first responders, construction workers, and others who endangered their own health by helping to save lives and search for survivors. We worked to create jobs despite the disastrous policies of George W. Bush across New York. And we stood up time and time again